Hi everyone, so my name is Shauna Privé. I work on the Google TV Content Business Development team. And today the goal is to give you or at least simulate a Google TV version 2 demo. To start off with, I'm going to talk a little bit about TV in general, and then go into the demo of the device that we have here. And at the end, feel free to ask me any questions that you may have. To start off with, how many of you, have any of you seen the version 1, or how many people, just a show of hands, have seen Google TV before? Okay, great. Perfect. So, we'll start off talking a little bit about, the way Google looks at the industry, and then we'll go straight into the demo. So to start off with, TV is one of these industries that is so impressive, and when we look at where does Google want to play? Absolutely, based on the fact that in the average American home there are 3 TVs. Those are the kinds of spaces that Google likes to enter and figure out how we can make this even a better user experience. So let's talk about some of those numbers. So when you do the aggregation, it's really quite impressive. You have 1.5 trillion hours of TV watched globally if you add up the average usage per user. And then in addition to that, you have about $400 billion every year in advertising and subscription revenue. So an absolutely enormous market. And then in addition to that, you have about 140 million connected TV devices that we expect to come into the market in the next couple of years, which is just a huge growth given the number that there are right now. So these are pretty. There we go. So these are pretty impressive numbers, but the reality is that no one knows how these huge numbers are really going to affect the market moving forward. What we do know is that the way we have been dealing with TV and the way that we will be dealing with TV will change drastically. And in fact, it really has already changed. So starting from just the way consumers use TV has already changed. So 30 years ago, if you happen to have your TV on a random Thursday night, the chances were 1 out of 2 that you were going to have your TV turned on to The Cosby Show. There weren't that many channels, maybe about 10, and something like The Cosby Show had basically a 50% audience share. Just a few years later, Seinfeld, which was the #1 show, had about half of the audience share, and the number of channels had doubled, even though it was in fact the #1 show. And then, of course, more recently, American Idol, which had the #1 show for a long time, had a quarter of the audience share that The Cosby Show had, and yet it was the #1 show. And by then, we had already reached hundreds of cable channels. So the reality is, the way people are watching television and the number of options they have available to them has really grown, which causes content fragmentation. And today, that content fragmentation will continue to divide not just by the number of programming opportunities available, but also just how you can consume that content, on what kind of device. Before it was just your TV, now it's your phone, now it's your DVR, your tablet, and so on and so forth. And we don't even know what other devices might come out. But the reality is that everybody is still watching TV. And the market doesn't decrease, but rather continues to grow. So right now in America, the average user watches 5 hours per day of TV. I don't watch 5 hours per day. I'd like to meet people who watch 5 hours per day, but apparently the average is 5 hours per day. The difference is that all of these users aren't just watching TV, as we all know. Even as you guys are sitting here, you're on your phones, you're on your laptops. We're not in a world of dedicated attentions anymore. We have partial attentions. So I call this device monogamy. We no longer have device monogamy. We're doing multiple things at the same time always. So even though the TV has always been the center of the home since its inception, and will continue to be the center of the home, the way we interact with the TV has changed, just because of the number of devices in the living room and also the amount of access that we have to different programming. And so just to reinforce, TV is not decreasing its importance, even though there are all these multiple devices. This graph shows you the heaviest users of TV and how much more TV they're consuming, which is pretty impressive given that this is a time lapse of only 5 years. And even those who don't watch that much TV, this is more like me, they're not watching any less TV because of all these devices and all of these options. So with all of this, additional TV viewing and people spending more time, the question is, why do we even need internet-connected TV, or why does it happen? Well, why are we going to have now 140 million devices by the time that we reach 2014? And the reality is that it's kind of the perfect storm. It's a unique time in history where we have several factors converging to bring us to the point. So first of all, just critical mass and broadband access, especially in the US, and then for, this will take a little bit more time around the world, but definitely in the US, people have been talking about connected TVs since the 70s, and then really talking about it in the last 15 years. But the reality is that we were never at a point in time where we had fast enough broadband penetration to make this a reality. The second one is the internet maturity. It's no longer just a bunch of websites and links and PageRank. It's a very, very mature network with video and a lot of interaction, a lot of usage. I mean, take YouTube, for example, which could have never existed 10 years ago. A platform like YouTube now gets 3 billion views a day, which is just an insane number, and gets 48 hours of content uploaded every minute, which is millions and millions and millions of views a year. And then, of course, hardware. So now the availability hardware, the size, the processing speed, the cost is all going down dramatically. And even at Google TV, I mean, we've experienced the drop in hardware costs even while in the last year of having this product. So this will continue to come down. It'll continue to become more, these kind of chips that have to be in these TVs will continue to become more available as the costs continue to drop. So basically, we're at the best time for this to happen. So a little bit about TV with an internet cable plugged inside of it. So first, I think a lot of times the Google TV platform gets labeled as a cord-cutting device or as a device that doesn't play well with the current content programmers and ecosystem. But the reality is, we understand the power of the TV and how important it is. We have a lot of respect for the television as well, and the emotions that the TV captures more than any other device in the household. There's something kind of magical about the device that's in your living room. Not only is it physically in the center of the living room, it's this device that just captures all of our imaginations. It's a great storytelling vehicle, and really we see nothing but a bright future for the app for this living room device. So the question is, how do we bring internet to the television? Because the internet is, of course, changing the world. But when you're talking about a device that has for years been, one message to its entire audience medium, and then you add the internet, which gives users a lot of choice, how can these two coexist? Which is exactly what we're trying to do with Google TV. So the reality is that the internet is, in fact, the definition of personal. It allows, if I were to go to CNN.com, I have 100 different links I can choose from. It's choose your own adventure, and if my husband were to go to CNN.com, there's no way that he and I, if we spent 10 minutes on the platform, would go to the same pages. Whereas if he were watching CNN in New York and I were watching it here, we would watch the same exact programming. So the reality is, when you bring that concept of personal choice and tailoring programming to the user, to the TV, things are, of course, going to change. And that includes making the television much more personal and social. We're super excited about the implications of social TV. We know, of course, the story of Twitter driving more TV views and Facebook driving more TV views. So this, of course, will be a big point of change. And then, of course, there's engagement. So before, even in the last 5 years, Even though there's been more kind of engagement with the television, it's still pretty much a passive TV device. And so we're hoping with the connection of the internet to the TV and with the addition of applications that can help people interact, we can finally offer content programmers the ability to interact with their users right there on the couch, as opposed to sending them off to their website, sending them off to Facebook, sending them off to these different places where they have to happen to remember the website later on and go and interact with Modern Family, as opposed to saying, hey, open the Modern Family app right now while you're watching TV because your TV's internet connected, and let's engage with our audience right at this moment. And so, what happens next? So basically, there's a long road ahead of us. It's really, really, really early. This industry took 80 years to build. Google has been working on a TV product for about 4 years with about a team of 100 people. So it's a really big initiative for us, but we realize it's really early. Our version of the V1 that came out last year was proof that it was really early. And we know that the entire industry still has to grow. However, there are some lessons that we have taken from mobile, and if we extrapolate those, we can potentially predict how this might work. So, first was when we first started building this platform, we started building a platform that was specific for the TV. And then what happened was, in the middle of building this platform, Apple came out with its smartphone, and that revolutionized everything, and that taught us, wow, maybe we're going about this the wrong way. We should take a cue from Apple and potentially have a different direction. And what they did that was so different was they didn't limit the sites that you could access on the phone to WAP sites. They said, you know what, we're going to give you a full browser, and if people want to go to kayak.com and search for a flight on their little tiny screen, they should be able to do that. If they want to go read a USA Today article on the little tiny phone, even though it's not a great experience, they should be able to do that. So when we saw that, we scrapped what we were working on at Google and started building basically a Chrome browser for the television. And so that became what that new project is what is today Google TV. So we took that lesson from Apple, put a full browser on the television, and went from there. So, where are we now? So people often ask, what is Google TV? And I can understand why it's so complicated. We didn't do the best job of making that really clear last year. And so we've kind of simplified what Google TV is. So the really easy way to explain it is it's Android operating system plus a Chrome browser plus search. And so I'll show you those three things right now.
There does appear to be a printed.
Can you cut the audio on the TV? So just as a disclaimer, we don't have live satellite feed inside of this room. And so I am using DVR to simulate TV. So we do have a little bit of limitations on the demo, but we can just pretend that we have TV in the background. I don't know how many of you can see it, but I'm basically going to be demoing off of this box. It's a Sony Blu-ray player. Right now we have 3 types of devices in the market. So we have set-top boxes that all they do is add Google TV to your current device. We have Blu-ray players with Google TV inside of them, and then we have actual TVs with Google TV inside of them. So what I'm showing you right now is off of this Blu-ray player. So the 3 things that the 3 lessons that we learned from last year in the product were, 1, we needed to make the product more intuitive. So a lot of feedback on the UI. There's a lot of nested menus. It was really difficult to use. It was loaded with features, but no one could understand any of them. And so those are the kinds of things that we wanted to fix. The second lesson we learned was, people don't want to wait a year to be able to build applications. So when the first iPhone came out, they could wait a year or 10 months, and there was no app development platform. But the reality is we're in a world where developers want to develop, and we need to make the Android market available to them today so that they can do that. And then the third thing that we learned was search is great, and Google TV does search really well, but people only know what they're looking for about 50% of the time. The other 50% of the time, they want to sit down and be entertained. They want to have some kind of browse experience that lets them figure out what's on TV in an easy way. And so those are the three things that we focused on over the last year. And then recently, about a week ago, we launched our version 2, which we call Google TV on Honeycomb. Honeycomb is the latest operating system from Android. They're named after desserts in alphabetical order. So now we are up to par with the latest operating system. Ice cream sandwich is basically Honeycomb for a phone, if any of you have that question. So I'll go ahead and show you kind of the three things that we've been working on. So just to refresh your memory, so for search, again, that's kind of our bread and butter. It's where we make all of our money. That's where all of our expertise is. So that was something that we worked on for a long time, and we're really able to integrate elegantly. And I'll give you an idea. So this is the input device. There's a search button here. It's a magnifying glass. I select it, and the search box comes up. So if we were watching regular TV, the picture would be a little bit brighter in the background, and we want to make sure that the user knows that they're still on TV and hasn't been taken away to any different place. So the search box comes up, and then I search for what I'm looking for. So Law and Order, and of course, Law and Order is always playing somewhere on some channel. Because there are 8 different series of Law and Orders, and they each have 20 seasons. So that's why I've used it as an example. So I'll walk you through these different search results so that you understand how we're ordering things, and we'll go from there. So I'll start with what you know. So this little TV symbol on the right-hand side, this tells me Law and Order is playing right now. So like I said, it's always playing somewhere. If I were to select this and had an actual satellite feed, I would be taken to Law and Order immediately. So no more pushing the guide button and then having to scroll down all the little gray boxes with the blue letters and then scrolling over a few half hours to see if it's on and then scrolling down again. Because the reality is, I've been watching Law & Order for years and I still don't know what channels it runs on my TV. There's just too many channels. If you have, at home we have Dish, and if you have Dish, there's like 10,000 channels listed in your guide. So if you get stuck on like channel 7,412, you'll be scrolling for a really long time. So the goal here was to just get the user to what they want really quickly. My husband loves this feature because on Saturday mornings he turns on the TV, searches for Tennessee Volunteers football to see exactly what time they're playing and on exactly what channel so he can get there right away and doesn't have to search for listings. If it's a really bad Saturday for me, he'll just search a really broad term like college football, and Google TV will return every college football game playing. So that's how search works for live TV. Then I'll take you to the second result. So the second result is your standard white page, blue links. We basically open a Chrome browser and take you to the same search result that would pop up on any of your computers if you were to do the same result. So here I could select any of these different results, and I would go to the same place as my browser on my Mac would. If there was an ad showing on the right-hand side, which there isn't, but if there were, there's nothing that advertisers doing to actually pop up here on Google TV. They're just we're just showing the same result as a regular browser. So here we have the live TV result, which I could change to right away and get to the show. Here's the google.com search results, and then here's a new set of results that we've basically created for Google TV. So this is extrapolating all of the video content and trying to bring the authoritative content up to the front for the television. So this is a search results page that we've created specifically for Google TV. We call it our video results. And so we've searched for Law and Order, and you see we have kind of 2 classifications here. So one, we have series. So this is the different Law and Order series that are available, period. Regardless of whether you can watch them through Google TV or you can watch them on linear television or wherever, this is just the series results. And we're actually having a bug right now because this is an internal build, but there are 8 series of Law and Order. And then below are high-ranking particular episodes. So it might be because an episode is coming up on TV soon or because it's really popular. We have a lot of different signals that we take into account here to show this algorithm. So I'll go over to SVU because that's my favorite. And we're taken to basically an entity page. So what we've tried to do is build a guide for each show that's ever run on TV in the US, which is not really something that has been available in the past. So first, we have a kind of an entity page. So this gives you the title of the show, a few of the actors, and then an overview of the show. And of course, we're not crawling the EPG here. We've done all of these data acquisitions and licenses to be able to create this kind of page for every TV show and movie. And so here you see a few related shows that helps you decide if this is something that you want to watch. And then, of course, you can rate it. So I like this. I'm going to rate it 5 stars. And if I opt in, Google will take into account my ratings into our algorithm for when they give me results in the future. So they're taking my personal interest into account when they serve me a search result. I can also opt in to tell Google, you know what, track what I watch, and based on what I watch, give me more results that are similar to what I watch. So, but that's opt-in only. So you get an overview of the show, you go to episodes, and you decide, okay, I want to start watching. And so here we have season 12. We've listed every single episode out in every single season for every single show. And then we've given you options for how you can actually consume the show. So if I select whatever that was, episode 20, I get what's called a playback page. So this playback page is analogous to our google.com search results. We've basically indexed a lot of different ways that you can consume this content, and then are telling the user how you can actually watch this. So for this particular episode, it tells me on Netflix, I can open Netflix, launch the app, and the show will start playing right away. Also, it gives me options to purchase this particular show on Amazon. And so if I were to select the Amazon option, we again launch the Chrome browser and are sending the user to Amazon.com. So this is organic traffic for Amazon. There's nothing they did. They're not paying us a bounty or a referral fee. We just want to get the user. We just want to connect them with the content as quickly as possible. So here on the right-hand side, you can see, it's $1.99 for, to buy this particular episode. If you want to buy the whole season, you can do it for $25. And again, all that purchasing and the sign-in and login, the authentication, this is all handled between the user and Amazon, and we just have a Chrome browser. And of course, we offer this playback for every single episode and try to find the user the best kind of content that's best for them. If it was playing on TV, we would also have a TV result for that particular episode, but it isn't. So you can see it's been 5 minutes, and now Law & Order's on another page. It's on another channel too. So I've showed you, here are the live TV results. If we selected those, we would go straight to TV. Here's google.com, and then here's the search results specific for Google TV. And then we have also a result. This is the entity page. So instead of going to the search results and then landing on the entity page, if I selected this, I would go straight to this show entity page, which gives me overview and access to all the different episodes of Google TV. So that's the way search works. Similar, except for now we have this guide application that we've built as part of search results. So the other thing that we basically enhanced was the UI. So if I go back to my home button, now we've really simplified it. So before, when I pressed home, I went to a different channel altogether in V1. You wouldn't really be able to see that your TV anymore. We had a lot of nested menus, and it was pretty complicated. Here we've tried to simplify. You press home, you can still see the TV playing in the background, and there's nothing too complicated about this. So I'll walk you through these different icons so you get a sense of what we're doing. So obviously the clock, and then here's your status notifications. So if you have something like a system update or any of your apps have notifications, that's your status icon. Here's live TV. So one of the big complaints we got was people don't know how to get back to live TV. So if I select this, I get back to my TV channel right away, and there's no hassle. This is the guide application we talked about. This is the browse experience for how to discover content, which I'll take you through. This is obviously the YouTube app specific for Google TV, the Android market, opening a Chrome browser, Netflix, and search. So just to walk you through these. We'll go back to the guide application. So we kind of accessed that entity page through search because we were looking specifically for Law & Order. But if I didn't know what I wanted to watch, I could actually just open up the guide and get an idea for what's on. So on the left-hand side, there's a couple of organizing principles here. So the first one is just what's on your linear feed. So when you set up your Google TV, you put in your address, you put in your MSO, and you tell me, you tell the computer, oh, HBO or ESPN, you tell them who you subscribe to. And then on the right, you're able to then see what is on. So instead of just trying to find what are the movies that are on TV right now through your regular guide, you can use Google TV to see all of your options. And so on any given day, I'll use this because you're able to find a lot more content, and really the pictures are worth 1,000 words here. So you'll see how many movies are actually on TV. We can scroll down for quite a bit of time and see all the content available to us, and we're still scrolling down. And so this allows you to say, Only the Lonely, which is an old show that you probably wouldn't, or an old movie that you wouldn't have been familiar with. There's no way that if I saw Only the Lonely on a guide with a gray box and blue letters that I would know what that was, or I would know who was in it. But this, tells me, okay, this is probably like a funny movie from the late 80s that I would want to watch. And you can select that, and we'll take you straight there. So it actually gives you a much better way of discovering the content that, frankly, you're already paying for through your linear feed to Comcast or Time Warner, et cetera. And then, and that's for movies. So when it comes to shows, instead of organizing the rest of the content by channel 401, 402, 403, we've taken the approach that it's better to organize it by genre, of at least the shows, organizing them by genre. So we have these broad shelves right now: comedy, drama, sports. There's about 10 different shelves, and you can decide, oh, I want to see what are all the comedies that are on right now. And of course, we give you a picture, and soon we'll get like a little descriptor, a one-sentence descriptor that hovers over the pictures to give you a sense for what you want to watch. And of course, you see on the bottom it says starts in 3 minutes, starts in 3 minutes. This tells you what's about to be on. And if you didn't want to know right now, but you wanted to know, half an hour from now, we would tell you, okay, here are all the shows that actually start at 12:30, in case we gave you too many results that were already mid-playback. Now, everything that I've shown you so far has to do with what's on your actual MSO feed, so what you're getting from Comcast, what's actually on TV. But if you didn't care if it was coming from TV or from Amazon or from Netflix, then you could select one of these. So this is shows and this is movies. So we'll just go to movies. And so these are all movies that are available to you, regardless of if it's coming from your linear feed or if it's coming from tbs.com or wherever it's coming from. We just want to get you to the content. So if I were to select Bridesmaids, I see again, a little overview, a few details about it. I can rate how well I enjoyed my experience when I watched it, and then I press rent. So this tells me, okay, look, you can rent it on Amazon. You can rent it on Amazon.com. If I do an actual search, let's say I'm in the mood for some aliens. I'll again get taken to the entity page for this particular movie. And if I selected watch, I have more options here. So you'll see that first we're going to show you what you've already paid for. For as a user, we want to make sure that you're getting value out of those packages. So here it tells me, I'm a subscriber to HBO, and it's already on HBO right now, and there's 15 minutes left. Then it's telling me, you can authenticate through the HBO.com app that they've built for Google TV, and if you authenticate, you can watch it right away. Next, it tells me, there's a Stars viewing in a couple days or tomorrow night that I can watch. And then I can rent it from Amazon, or I can, this is supposed to be rental, I can rent it from YouTube as well. So again, we're trying to give the user all the possible options for how they can consume the content. So that's pretty much the guide app, the discovery app that we've built for the platform. And then the YouTube experience. Specific for the TV, we've just tried to make it really D-pad navigable so that you can get around pretty easily and then search for what it is that you're looking for. And we open up full screen automatically, so the experience is more like a TV experience. If you guys haven't seen this video, you've got to see it. It's pretty hilarious. And so that's the YouTube experience. So you've seen the home bar, which is our UI redesign, and I've showed you our browse experience. So the last thing is the Android market. So when we launched a couple weeks ago, we finally ported to Honeycomb, which allows us to bring the Android market. So this is the same market that you would find on Android phones and tablets. It's just that we've applied filters so that not all the apps come through. So the Android market has about 250,000 apps, and obviously a lot of those apps, that require GPS, accelerometer, those kinds of things wouldn't make sense on a TV. So here we've filtered a lot of those out and featured the apps that are built specifically for TV. So at the top we have some of our more popular apps, and then some more apps that we've featured here. So we have some gaming apps, and it's not just video. There's a lot of other things that people are using. For example, this is one of our more popular applications. Can you give me sound? So it's classy fireplace because I think of the music in the background. But people will just turn this on and leave it on for 5 hours. So it gets really high ratings. And of course you can change the scene in case it's hot outside, like it always is in LA. And so people just leave these different scenes on and turn their TV into something else than just the TV. So walk you through a few other apps. So Wall Street Journal, obviously you guys know the newspaper, but they've recently launched live content. And so here's an app where they're basically trying to be a TV channel. And you'll see, here it needs an update, so we're just updating the app, and it's installing.
Ina, Consumer Reports really basically said, no way will we recommend that.
Sorry about that. Let's try that again. There you go. So on this particular implementation, you can cut the sound. Wall Street Journal has decided to make it look just like a TV channel, so they drop you into, in this case, a commercial. But they want to make it feel just like a TV channel, and so they also have live streaming that they're doing through here, so that when the user opens it, it goes to whatever is being streamed live. And of course, there are VOD options too that you can select. And here they take you, and you can see all the different live streaming that's available. So a lot of folks taking advantage of the ability to look just like a TV channel, but on a television through the internet, when you don't actually have room from an MSO to have an actual channel. So those are a couple of the apps that we have. And of course, one of the things that took us by surprise is that Android has a conference every May called, specifically for developers, called I/O. And we weren't sure if people were really ready to develop for the television, but turns out they are. And at our session at I/O for Android developers, it was the most oversubscribed, and we've had thousands and thousands and thousands of developers inquire about how to develop for the platform, because I think, of course, everyone's really excited about seeing their app on TV. So that was the Android market. And once you've downloaded your apps, which I've already taken to you guys to, here's where you have all your apps. So you can just access all your apps. These aren't, this is just alphabetical, so you can't really change the order. The other thing you can do is you can bookmark particular websites. Like the New York Times is just a website that we bookmarked and made a shortcut to from my All Apps section as well. We also have a few proprietary apps, like this Photos app that pulls in both your Flickr and your Picasa stream. Sometimes I turn on Pandora, I leave Pandora running in the background for music, and then run my slideshow at the same time. So before a dinner party or whatever, you have your photos playing with some music, and people are watching that. You can also just do kind of like a standard slideshow as well with that. So you saw the, and of course we have a Chrome browser that goes everywhere. And that's basically, that's Google TV V2. So you've seen search, our new UI, the browser, and the Android market, and of course our new proprietary apps like Photos, YouTube, and things of that nature. That's pretty much it. Are there any questions? So the question about is there integration for Google+? So all Google products are supposed to be really working to make sure that Google+ is a part of every platform. We haven't been working on that right now because we're just trying to focus on streaming, getting the app development platform. But in the short future, we definitely will be. I'm sorry? International languages. So right now we're just English only, and we're only launched in the US. But it is something that we obviously want to support, and so I think we'll start looking at international languages once we launch outside of the US. Yeah.
I've got two questions for you. One, looks like you're only indexing partners with Google. What about the Apple Store? What about Voodoo? What about any other stores so people can really see the length and breadth of stores available and the content available in those other stores? The second question for a long-suffering Logitech owner is, when are we going to get ours?
So I'll answer your long-suffering question first. So when you work with the different OEMs, we give them the stack, and then whenever they are ready, they push. So we don't really have a lot of control over that, but they are planning on pushing in the next couple weeks. So you should get that soon, and this month. And then the second, so for your first question in terms of, so we wouldn't have, I don't know if your first store you said was the App Store, but that's iOS. Oh, yeah, so that's still, so Apple uses their own proprietary DRM and their own proprietary system. So you won't see Apple compatibility with Google products, just like you don't have that on your Android phone. You wouldn't see it on TVs either. In terms of other partners, we actually index anybody that we can crawl. So we've wanted, in terms of that guide experience that I showed you guys, we want to make sure that this is a really safe place for programming too. So it's all going to be authoritative content, and we have a pretty tight control over who we index here. But if it's a legitimate source of content, we want to make sure that we can index it. So things like Voodoo, as long as Voodoo has the technology to work on the platform, you'll see it integrated. So the goal here is to have as many sources as possible.
Hi, about the thematic searching, for example, if I search like martial arts or comics, the results depends on the language that I search. How about that in this system?
Is it, you mean in the market or just the TV search?
No, in general.
In TV search. So it's the question, if a user searches for a TV show in another language, will it come up?
Not TV shows, thematic search. For example, a theme. So a comic or a sport or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, you can search in whatever language because we have a Chrome browser, right? So if nothing comes up from the TV standpoint.
No, but the programs, obviously in Google Chrome is right, but the list of programs in TV schedule.
So you're saying, can you search like a Spanish language program?
For example.
Yeah, so you can definitely search a Spanish language program in Spanish, and it'll come up. So like if I do a search for, if I do a search for Sábado Gigante.
No, but not the program, the theme. For example, sports or deporte.
Deportes, like if you were to do that. Yeah, I mean, basically, you can search whatever you want, and you're going to see, You know, if we don't have something, obviously, so here's...
Okay, but the results are in Spanish program. How about if I want the results also a sport program in another language?
Yeah. Yeah, so if it's on TV,
Yeah.
if it's on TV, it doesn't matter what the language is because, you know, it's just an algorithm, right? So we're saying if your search matches whatever's on TV, regardless of what language it's in, we're going to bring it up. So that's why I was doing the search for like Sábado Gigante. It's bringing up that show.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess two questions. Is there any option or partner option for home media and home media being included in the search?
For home media, like
Yeah.
things that you have on a local network?
Yeah, think you have in your local network. And I guess my second question, are the pay-per-view options or the on-demand options from the pay-TV provider included in the search, or is that something that's planned?
Yeah. So the first question is, if you have a bunch of movies on your home network, is that available to you? So we haven't prioritized that because we've been working on streaming and building the platform, but we recognize a lot of people have great libraries at home and want to use access to that. So what we've done is enabled developers to fill that space. So there's a bunch of different developers who've come up with home networking options to make sure that that's integrated. It won't come up in our kind of browse experience, but you can definitely play that through Google TV using one of the apps that the developers have created. And then the second question is your, so pay-per-view, no, as a traditional pay-per-view channel. And in terms of the VOD offerings offered by like Comcast, so they have to tell us what their library is. There's no way for us to search the electronic programming guide. So for example, if you have Dish has told us what their VOD library is, so we are able to tell you if it's available through Dish VOD. But the key there is that the MVPD has to be able to tell us what their library is. I mean, you can just reach out to us. I mean, we want to include everyone. No, I'll give you my card. Yeah. So the great thing about porting to Google TV Honeycomb is that you use the same SDK as a developer for developing for the TV that you would for the tablet. So, in some cases, the apps port really well, and there's nothing that you have to do. And in some cases, you have to optimize for a 10-foot UI because you're no longer using a touch screen, and you're no longer using a tablet right in front of your face. You're 10 feet away, and you have a little bit of kind of UI work to do. But the goal, the concept behind having Android on all these different devices is to make that world easier for developers. We work with developers who are developing for 10 different OEMs, and they have to be developing on completely different stacks, obviously. So the goal here is to make it as easy as possible. It's been published since the SDK came out for Honeycomb in February, so it's already out there.
Yeah, so I noticed that HBO Go is one of the results you got from your search. Is that something that is exposed via the developers' APIs? So for instance, I work for ESPN, and our content changes very frequently. Is that something that we would be able to provide to the general search functionality of Google TV?
So the way HBO Go is integrated is because we're working with them specifically to make sure that they're in, and we're working with ESPN as well to see how to make sure to kind of index ESPN3 and those kinds of things, which is a great experience on here, by the way, too, because you can just open up the browser, open up ESPN3, and watch it on your TV instead of your computer. So we're working individually with content programmers and owners to do that. It's not anything that we just expose to the API.
What's the highest data rate you're shooting now?
I have no idea.
What is the control device you assume in this system for TV? You do search hypertext. Do you have a soft keyboard on the screen, or
Yeah.
you assume a traditional remote controller?
Yeah. So the question is, what's the input device for Google TV? So each of the OEMs came out with their own input devices. So this is the one, even though I'm controlling Sony, I'm using a Logitech keyboard, and we didn't really have any input over these devices. We kind of left that up to the OEM. So in the next hardware generations to come up, we're actually designing those controllers to make them a little bit more living room friendly. And then of course you also have, and so these controllers come with the product. When you buy a Logitech box or when you buy a Sony box, you get these controllers. And then in addition, we've actually created both iOS and Android applications, so you can download them on your phone or your tablet for both operating systems. And then we've open sourced those apps, which means any developer could take our source code for that and create a control for the TV. So that leads to a lot of like interactive games and whatnot too. Okay.
Hi, can you tell me about your support for multi-channel sound and your support for what video codecs come down the box?
So for multi-channel sound, I don't know the answer to that question, but if you ask me afterwards, I can get it for you too. And then for video codecs, so we're supporting basically H.264, and you know, Google's a big proponent of VP8, so in the future we'll obviously do that, but we're trying to hit the codecs that hit the most amount of content right now. Yep. Right next to him.
Hi, do you ever intend to integrate DVR capabilities, and do you ever see this being a direct competitor to things like the PlayStation and the Xbox? Like ever putting gaming capabilities in here?
So
like really taking over the living room, which
yeah.
is what some of your competitors are thinking of doing
yeah.
or trying to do.
So question around, you know, what's basically the roadmap and what is our focus? So I think our focus right now is just video, right? And linear television and supporting that linear television feed. So, you know, from a, you know, do you buy Google TV if you don't have already a subscription to, you know, Comcast? I would say not yet. Right? So that's really not what we're looking for. We're looking to support the current content ecosystem, and so that's our focus. And then in terms of gaming, I mean, I think we want to be a player in casual gaming, because even though there's, you know, a ton of Xbox and PS3s out there, you know, my household will never have an Xbox or PS3 because I won't allow my husband to have one of those. And so there are a lot of houses that need social gaming or could benefit from social and casual games. So I think in that space, we do want to play. But you know, the first-person shooter games that are, you know, require really strong processing, I don't think you'll see us be in that direction anytime soon.
Hi, could you talk a little bit about the ad model, if there is one here, and if it would potentially overlap at all with Google TV advertising, which is, I believe, separate altogether?
Yeah. So Google TV ads, despite the name, so the question is around the ad model. And Google TV ads, even though it sounds very similar, we're not, you know, I don't see any overlap there. In terms of ad model in general, I mean, I think we're really just focused right now on getting the user experience right. If you guys read any of the articles that came out when we launched last year, you know that we had a lot of work to do on the user experience, and frankly, we still do. I mean, this space took 80 years to build, right? And we're so early. I mean, we've been working on this for 4 years, but we have a long way to go. So I think until you really see consumer adoption being in the tens of millions, we're not really looking at advertising. Now, from an app developer perspective, because we're Android platform, we have all the same monetization capabilities as Android does inside of your apps. And so same standard kind of 70-30 rev share split, and then what happens is if you serve your own ads in there, we don't take any of it, so you get to keep 100% of the ads.
Are companion device experiences on the roadmap, and have you guys thought of incorporating some of the navigation capabilities on just Android phones or through an app on whatever smartphone device that you might have?
I'm sorry, what was the first part of the question?
Companion device experiences. So I know you guys have been focused on the UI and just the TV, but as you do get into monetization and so forth, is there any consideration about what you do with the companion device to either increase engagement with the TV? So when content's playing, do you have something else going? Is that on the roadmap?
Yeah, so the second screen devices that are starting to come out now, if I'm watching Grey's Anatomy on my television, I open up, you know, my tablet will know that I'm watching Grey's Anatomy and will feed me kind of second screen content, or Bones, Fox just came out with a second screen app for Bones too. So yeah, absolutely. We have that on the roadmap. It's just a matter of building the technology that's able to detect what you're watching on TV. And then what was the second question? Lost it.
Around navigation, have you guys considered an app to do that? So everyone has a smartphone, or at least in the US, nearly everyone does. But
yeah, I mean, I think so. In terms of will Google outsource another party to do navigation on the platform? No. But how are we looking to make it easier to do? I think we already introduced voice, even though we haven't focused a lot on it. So you'll see other things that we're working on to help get around the UI as well. So yeah, we're definitely working on other ways, but we'll be building that proprietarily.
Yeah, do you have any announcements on Motorola acquisition and if and when they'll start building boxes with Google TV integration?
No.
Can I stream live to Google TV?
Using HLS, yes.
Can you speak a little bit about what drives your discovery engine?
Yeah, so it's algorithm. So we take 100 different signals into place, and it's a little bit of our secret sauce. But we do lots of data deals to try and get as much information as possible. From Nielsen about what's popular. Also, kind of some, from like I showed you, if I rate it highly, then we take that into consideration, and we'll be working on a lot of other things. But I mean, we're just trying to get as many signals as possible to understand and feed you back the exact result that you're looking for. So just as we do on Google.com, that's always a challenge, and we're always tweaking the algorithm, and it's the same thing. But it's a combination of data we create ourselves, data the user gives us, data that we're getting from the aggregate, and then even things like search data. Yeah. Well, you mean one profile is in like one user, but then the TV is a shared device in the.
More of if you take a huge population of people and their user behavior, you're going to end up finding an average profile that when you surface it or offer it as a recommendation, it is likely based on probability that someone will act on it. However, it doesn't stretch taste beyond what everyone is likely to do, so it ends up reinforcing itself and pushing people towards the very same behavior pattern.
Yeah, which is why it's only one of 100 signals we take into account. Yeah, I mean, and of course we have we've got 30 people working on that particular thing. How do we serve people the kind of content that they're looking for? Yeah. Is there a question? Is that it? Oh, one right here.
Are you going to make the content providers, are you going to give them access to your analytics?
Well, right now we don't really have any analytics that we're tracking. I mean, it's very light. In terms of do we want to be in the game of what Nielsen's doing? I mean, right now we're basically a customer of Nielsen, and so we're buying their analytics. But I'm not sure that that's the place that we want to be anytime soon. Is that it? Well, thank you everyone for coming, and I appreciate your time.